One Championship's big event of April goes down this Friday/Saturday, wherever you are in the world watching it. That is One Fight Night 9 live from the Lumpini Boxing Stadium in Bangkok, Thailand. This is my quick preview of the event. Before we get into the actual preview, quick little plug from me. If you enjoy this video, please hit subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot more One content on this channel. After all, it is my day job to cover that promotion, so it just makes sense. But if you want to check out some interviews, podcasts, things like that, go over to VMTV, where I also post a lot of stuff over there. And follow me on Twitter to stay up to date with everything that I do. Anyway, on with the preview for One Fight Night 9 on April 21st. I'm going to come straight out the gate by saying something a little bit negative about this card before we talk about the fights you should be excited for. Because there are fights to be excited for, but it doesn't take a genius to point out that this card is a little bit weaker in terms of depth compared to the other One Fight Night cards we have had. I think that they've been great events. But this one doesn't have as many high-stakes matchups, doesn't have as many championship fights, just straight off the bat. Not as many big names. And I put that down to the fact that One Fight Night 10 is just around the corner. If you don't know, One Championship is making its US debut on May 5th in Colorado. And because of that, they have absolutely stacked the card with a lot of the promotion's biggest names. Some of them making their US debuts for the first time. 3 World Championship fights. So that makes sense. I think it is right around the corner, so that explains that. However, there are still some fights that you should be looking forward to on this card, so let's get into those. And you've got to look no further than the main event. This main event sells this card on its own. Not only have you got Nong-O Hama, one of the most dominant Muay Thai strikers of his generation, if not of all time, in the main event in Lumpini. That's enough to get people excited. But he's taking on Jonathan Haggerty, which I think is a dream Muay Thai matchup. At least it is for me, as a big fan of Haggerty and Nong-O. So let's talk about this matchup, because let's start with Haggerty, the challenger. Recently moved up to bantamweight. He was, of course, a former Muay Thai world champion at flyweight. He lost that title to Rod Tang in that pair of classic fights that they had. But recently moved up to bantamweight, was successful on his bantamweight debut against Vladimir Kuzmin at One on Prime Video 4 last year. But it was a very, very close fight, I thought. Not the statement that Haggerty would have wanted to make. Of course, he got the win, majority decision, so that was good. But it was very, very close, I thought. I think Nong-O will have watched that one and gained a lot from it. And I like I said, I'm a huge Jonathan Haggerty fan. I massively rate him. But there's a reason why he's a big underdog in this fight. And that is because Nong-O Hama is on an incredible run. Since signing with One Championship, he's produced 10 consecutive wins, the last 5 of which have all been finishes. The most recent one came at One Friday Fights 1 in January this year, where he defeated Aliverdi Ramazanov. I think that Haggerty can probably learn a few lessons from that fight, because Ramazanov started the fight really, really well. The scary thing was Ramazanov started well, and Nong-O took over and finished him in the 3rd round anyway. Which is scary. It was a scary finish. And so, in trying to defend his bantamweight title again, he's a massive favourite for the reasons that I just pointed out. I think it would be a huge upset, a massive upset, if Haggerty pulls this off. The biggest win of his career. I know that he kind of did the same thing when he became the flyweight world champion, but becoming the bantamweight world champion by defeating Nong-O is as tough a task as you can get in One Championship, if you ask me. But what a main event. Can't wait for that one. Elsewhere on the card, there are some interesting matchups. Like I said, the depth of this card is just not there compared to the others. But you've got Halil Amir taking on Maurice Abevi. I could have said his surname wrong. The pronunciation, I apologise for in advance. 2 undefeated guys. Abevi is making his One Championship debut at 6-0, all finishes. He has never seen a 3rd round in his career. We've seen a little bit more of Halil Amir. He has fought in One Championship once before. He's 8-0, again, all wins by finish. But he debuted at One on Prime Video 2 last year and stopped Timofey Nastyukhin in an incredible performance. He's now the number 4 ranked lightweight contender just because he's beat Timofey. Like, people who watch One Championship know that that is an impressive feat, and a win here could put him in title contention. It really could. I think that Christian Lee is probably going to defend the welterweight championship first. Of course, he holds both the lightweight and welterweight world championships. I think he'll defend the welterweight one first. He suggested after he beat Abasov for the title that he kind of wants to do, back-to-back fights in a weight division and then move down, so he's not constantly fluctuating between the two weights, which makes a lot of sense. And obviously, we've got some big welterweight matchups coming up soon, so I don't think he will secure himself a title shot for his next fight. Halil Amir, that is, if he wins, but he'd definitely be one of the people in contention, so that's a big fight there. Elsewhere, you've got Bokang Masanyang versus Hiroba Minowa. That is the number 2 contender in Bokang taking on the number 3 contender in Hiroba, both coming off of losses to the strawweight world champion Jared Brooks, so a win here, number 2 versus number 3, probably puts them into title contention. I know that Brooks has talked a lot about fighting elsewhere, testing himself in other disciplines, maybe fighting up at flyweight, but I do think he needs to get a title defense under his belt first. He's looked absolutely dominant so far, but I think you do have to defend a title before you look elsewhere, and he will probably be looking at this matchup as a potential rematch for his first title defense against the winner, because he's kind of cleaned through a lot of the strawweight contenders already. So if either one of these men is able to produce a impressive performance over the other, then I think they will probably get themselves a rematch with Brooks, if not next, very soon. The final fight that I wanted to mention, you've got Simon Petch taking on Felipe Lobo. Simon Petch has won his last 2 fights. Lobo, his last fight was a loss to Nong-O, so you could see a potential challenger for the winner of the main event emerging from this one, especially if Simon Petch wins. That would be 3 wins in a row for him, especially against a guy that just fought Nong-O. So I think that's a good possibility. Personally, the problem with Nong-O is he's beating everyone and he's made it look pretty easy at points. So it's hard to justify a rematch for a lot of these guys. I think, like I said, Simon Petch with a win will get a title shot. Lobo, I'm not so sure. Maybe if Haggerty wins and Lobo wins, there's a matchup there. But personally, if Haggerty wins, I really want to see the Liam Harrison matchup. If Haggerty loses, I really want to see the Liam Harrison matchup. He's been talking about that on Fight Week. So, I want to see that. And that is it for my short preview for One Fight Night 9 on April 21st. If you're in America, you can catch it on Prime Video. If you're in the UK, like I am, you can watch it on One Championship's YouTube channel, which is always fantastic. And yeah, like I said, some good fights. The main event is absolutely killer, but really we're building up to One Fight Night 10, which I will have some previews out. I'm tempted to do it as a 2-parter, to be honest, because every fight on that card is worth talking about for at least a minute or so. So we might put that one up as a 2-parter, so stay tuned for that. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, and I will see you on the next one.